So guys, I welcome you guys to this episode. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about entry. All right. I understand some of you are struggling looking for your entry, all right, on lower time frame. So I believe this video will help you. So before I will continue, I want you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe, comment, like. All right. Most importantly, I want you guys to join my Telegram channel for more trading updates. All right. And then if you are looking for private mentorship, most I also run private mentorship on Telegram. Just message me on Telegram or you message me on WhatsApp. All right. So if you are talking about entry, so entry simply means like your point of interest, your origin, the origin you are looking up to take your entry. All right. So So I use three different entry. I use order block, I use fair value gap, and then I also use breaker block. So order block is also your point of interest. All right, it's also a point of interest, your POI, where you are looking to trade from. All right. So here is another entry, which is your fair value gap. All right. So I also use fair value gap as my entry. All right. So I also use fair value gap. I also use fair value gap as my entry, and then I also use um breaker block. So I also use breaker block or support or resistance, whatever you want to call it. So I also use it as my entry. All right. So these are the three main entries I use. I use order block, I use fair value gap, and then I use breaker block. All right. So if you can able to spot this three entry, you will be able to spot the liquidity above this entry. All right. So once you can spot this entry, you will spot any other liquidity above them. All right. So for example, when you have your order block like this, so you are not going to trade directly from the order block. All right. If not, you might get stopped out. All right. So what do you want to look for after spotting out this your order block? You want to look for that liquidity. All right, it's either you look for engineer liquidity. All right, so if you don't know what is engineer liquidity or you are struggling to spot engineer liquidity, I'll drop more video on engineer liquidity, and I've already dropped some video explaining engineer liquidity, and I'll still drop more video on engineer liquidity. All right, they did not break structure, so before coming to your PY. All right. So, or you will have your structural liquidity. So, structural liquidity, that is when you will have that break of structure. All right. Price will break structure to the upside, taking out the recent high, then come back to your origin, which is your point of interest or your entry. All right. So, that is structural liquidity. And then for breaker block, too, if you want to trade the breaker block, so you can't just trade directly from your breaker block. All right. So, you just look for, so that you look for engineer liquidity. All right, the price will come to your breaker block and then go in your direction, or you look for that structural liquidity, which means price will break structure to the upside before coming to your origin. All right, so these are the three main entry I use. All right, these are the three main entry I use. I use breaker block, I use order block, and then I use fair value gap. All right, so if you want to look for this entry, please make sure you analyze market structure and then you look for this entry according to that market structure. All right, so if the market structure is bullish, make sure you look for bullish entry. Don't look for bearish entry. If you look for bearish entry, you will lose. Okay, you will lose if you look for bearish entry. Here's an example here. So you can see what I have here. So I am able to spot my um entry. So I'm able to spot my entry, which is my order block right here. All right. So after this order block, then you can see that I am able to spot this structural liquidity. You can see price took out the recent high after this pullback, then go ahead and take out the high, then drop back to the order block. All right, so I am able to spot this structural liquidity, and then I have my order block down here as my entry. All right, you can see price come back into the order block and then proceed to the upside. So we have more entry. All right, I have this other block right here too, which is my origin. I have my origin right here. You can see, so after marking all this PUI, you can see I'm able to spot the liquidity above the PUI. You can see, so if you have fresh PUI and then there's no liquidity above the PUI, so you just have to, you need patience. Just have patience for price to give you liquidity, engineer liquidity, or give you structural liquidity above the entry. All right, so if your entry is correct, price will give you liquidity. Know how? If your entry is correct, price will give you liquidity. So you can see we have this small. So we have this small fair value gap right here. We have this small fair value gap right here. We have this small fair value gap, and then price engineer liquidity above the fair value gap. This is the engineer liquidity. So this is the engineer liquidity. Price engineer liquidity above the fair value gap, and then right here. Okay, let me make use of this. So right here we have this fair value gap. All right, and then above this fair value gap we have liquidity above the fair value gap. Structural liquidity, you can see this is the last high we created before this pullback. So after this pullback, price go ahead and take out the high before dropping back to the fair value gap, and then react from the fair value gap, taking out the structural liquidity down here. All right, so the scenario continue. So you can see we have another fair value gap right here, this very big fair value gap right here. So you can see, so if you can able to mark out this fair value gap, you can see price come back for this liquidity above the fair value gap. You can see I have this liquidity and then fair value gap down here. So price take out this fair value liquidity up here, then come out to the fair value gap, and then continue going up. All right, okay, same thing also happen here. You can see we have this fair value gap, then liquidity above the fair value gap, then price continue going up. All right, price continue going up. So same thing also happen here. I have this liquidity. Although I make this entry, but I make use of the fair value gap up here. So instead of me to make use of the fair value gap down here, so I make use of the fair value gap up here. You can see how price challenge my stop loss before going in my direction. So price really challenged my stop loss then before going in my direction. So you can see. So price make use of this fair value gap. You can see how price challenge my stop loss. So when you have your fair value gap like this, you can see price engineer liquidity right here above this fair value gap, and then before going in my direction. All right, so that is that. So thank you guys for watching. I don't forget, guys, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel. Join my Telegram channel. Like my video. Comment your opinion on this. Thank you, guys.